Okay, excellent. Can everyone hear me okay? Brilliant. Yes, I'm Rob. I'm the CEO of SmartFrame Technologies, and we've been spending the last decade almost developing a patented image streaming technology. More recently, over the last 2 years, we've been focusing on a game-changing application of our technology to the sports industry, which I'm delighted to tell you about today. Actually, 3 minutes early before our press releases are sent out, I'm delighted to announce after 18 months of discussions, we have now become the official global photography and image distribution partner for New Zealand Rugby, the All Blacks, the Black Ferns, and all teams within inside the New Zealand Rugby Union. Indeed, conversation. Thank you. A lot of air miles, I can tell. Indeed, this conversation is going across all of rugby globally, and you'll see through this presentation why we believe sports brands are going to adopt this model over the coming months and years. Exactly 1 month today, we'll be announcing the same for one of the major Premier League football clubs, arguably one of the best football clubs in the world, which will also be going live with our model on the 4th of August. Again, conversations are taking place across all of football and across tennis, cricket, Formula One, and sailing as well. And I'm going to present today what that model means for, hopefully, for the people in this room. So the first thing we're doing is we're fundamentally changing the way images are published online. The first ever image was published in 1992 as a JPEG, a picture of the Les Sonettes, a parody pop group. Of course, since then, the internet and technology has evolved rapidly. Everyone's got a high-end internet-enabled camera in their pocket, and there are now 1.5 trillion images taken every year. There's about 3 billion images shared online every day, 85% of which are stolen or infringing someone's copyright. A lot of people say, well, who cares? The internet's free, images are free, what's the problem? But actually, there's lots of problems. On the personal end of the spectrum, there's identity theft, fake profiles, catfishing. With the explosion of AI recently, there's lots of synthetic media, disinformation, misinformation. You may have recently seen a picture of the Pentagon with an explosion that was an AI-generated image and sent the stock markets crashing for a moment there. Will we be able to trust what we see in the future with so much synthetic media? Then there's brands. There's $4.5 trillion a year spent on counterfeit goods, mostly online, and using genuine brand product imagery to fool consumers into buying those illicit goods. But our focus more recently has been the photography industry, a 4 billion industry that's now been in decline for over a decade, and how we can re-empower that photography industry and the sports industry globally. At the heart of all these problems is the file format. The JPEG's a downloadable file format, which is easily drag and dropped, right-click, screenshot. There's a complete lack of awareness to copyright and no meaningful protection. This really illustrates just how bad it's got for the photography industry, an area that we really want to create a more sustainable future, and we believe the current model is destined for failure. As you can see, the average stock photography license in 2006 was $268. By 2020, just $4.20. And most of that revenue goes to the big platforms that distribute the content, and the content creators only get a small percentage of that. It's becoming increasingly difficult to make a living as a content creator and photographer, and certainly the sports brand that get a small share of this revenue as well. This is what we're looking to change. Specifically related to sports and why we won the New Zealand Rugby contract, a major Premier League club which will be launching soon. There's a major agency in this industry that almost all sports brands rely on. They pay that agency for photography services with a big management fee on top. The photographer only gets a small percentage of that booking fee. Although they pay for the service, they don't own the product. All the IP of the images captured belong to the agency, not to the sports club. So they pay for the photographers, but they don't own the IP of the images they capture. The agency also keeps the majority of the revenue, which is in the form of subscription income to publishers, which is classed as editorial use, and no revenue from that subscription income is passed back to the sports teams. In fact, just the individual licensing they do get a percentage of, at best, covers the cost of the photography. In most instances of all the sports brands we've talked to globally, they're out of pocket. Until now, the value exchange has been that they have access and their commercial partners have access to that content for their own commercial purposes. But we believe there's a different world and a lot more value can be added. And that's with SmartFrame. So we have been developing nearly a decade now patented image streaming technology. And it's fundamentally changing the way images are published online. Instead of posting a JPEG, you embed for free a SmartFrame image. Publishers save licensing costs. It's also in a copyright compliant way, so you never have to worry about litigation for accidental misuse and not having the appropriate license of an image. But when you embed it, there's 4 key functionalities. One, it's the most secure file format on the planet today. So now IP is protected. It's also interactive. Optimizing the streaming system means we can deliver high-res files with full screen and deep zoom and interactive functionality that's proven to create greater content engagement and therefore dwell times on the publisher platforms. Because we're streaming the image, we can also provide detailed analytics to both the publisher and the content owner of the sports brand of where those images are being used online, how they're being engaged with, and most importantly, where they're being viewed down to city and device level. And rather than a licensing model, ours is an ad-funded model. So the sports brands can then go to their sponsors and commercial partners and offer them a new media space to be associated with their brands and reach out to their fans through their interactive images all over the world. We also offer advertisers the opportunity to be associated to those sports brands with contextually relevant adverts. And the ad-funded model is shared with both the publisher, the photographer, the sports brand, and obviously SmartFrame for operating the service. If we look at that compared to the $4 billion decline in stock photography industry, contextual advertising, due to the demise of the third-party cookie, everyone will be aware, is on the growth. Brands are looking to align themselves in contextually relevant environments. We use the metadata of the image, as well as scanning the web page and our own proprietary analytics to make an informed contextual choice. And as you can see, in 2021, 178 billion was estimated to be spent on contextual, and 376 billion is estimated to be spent by 2027. Just a small percentage of that being channeled into this sports content can completely transform the future of photography and sports brands worldwide and create a more sustainable future for the photography industry. So what do we offer sports brands? How did we win this contract? We now have, to win this business, a global network of award-winning sports photographers. We work with Action Press, whose CEO was the former global picture editors of Reuters. We work with Bob Martin, probably one of those most iconic sports photographers in the world, multi-awards winning sports photographer. We have a network now of over 5,000 photographers that can be at any sporting event anywhere in the world, 24/7, 365. The difference is we don't charge a big management fee or booking fee. We pass all the fee onto the photographer. So typically they'll get twice the day rate, and the sports brand will pay half the price for probably the same photographer, if not a better photographer, as most photographers are freelancers and stringers. And many are moving across to adopt this new model as it's far fairer and better compensation for them. The difference is every image that our photographers capture belongs to the sports brand. So they now have a valuable IP asset in their business, and that IP is then protected through the SmartFrame technology. The images are presented in the best way possible with high res and full screen and deep zoom viewing experience, giving a far greater fan engagement experience and improving dwell times on the publisher platforms. We also provide comprehensive data and audience insights just for both the publisher and the sports brands. Sports brands can now also reach out, if you think of SmartFrame as mini billboards across the internet, can reach out and engage with fans in more meaningful ways with their own promotional activities, ticket sales, merchandise sales, hospitality promotions, etc. They also we're currently working through all the sponsors and commercial partners of New Zealand Rugby, offering them the opportunity to own this media space that New Zealand Rugby now have. And our ad team also offers it out to the market. Of course, any advertising that will appear on this inventory won't be in conflict with any existing commercial partners or sponsors of New Zealand Rugby. This presents a much richer revenue opportunity through that sponsorship and advertising placement that's shared with all parties involved. If we look back in the early days of the internet, there was very similar problems in terms of piracy and value leakage for both the music and film industries, both of which have obviously adopted streaming technology to regain rights control and drive greater value into those platforms. Just two examples here. YouTube just one video streaming platform, now turns over 28.8 billion a year, which is 7 times more than the entire stock photography industry. While Spotify, 12 billion a year, 3 times more than the entire stock photography industry. And those revenues are predominantly driven through pre-roll and mid-roll advertising between the content. So rather than monetizing the asset, they're monetizing the audience that's consuming the asset. And that's what SmartFrame's doing for digital imagery. So there's 4 key benefits. I've touched on them a bit. One is the most secure file format on the planet today. You can't drag and drop. We intercept right-click. Most screenshot attempts, we're invisible to malicious web bots and crawlers. And when we intercept a theft attempt, we present a copyright warning message to start raising awareness and educating consumers to copyright. It is the best format possible for viewing and displaying images. We can deliver high-res files. A page just simply wouldn't load if you used a JPEG of the size and scale that we can deliver, which allows for full screen and hyper zoom viewing functionality, creating much better fan engagement, content satisfaction, and proven dwell times on publisher sites that use our content. As I mentioned, because we're streaming the image, the JPEG is in our secure server. We stream it to everywhere it's embedded on the internet, and so we can provide detailed analytics, the full screens, the deep zooms, the average viewing times, the theft attempts, and where those views are coming from, down to city and device level. And then we use that data to inform our advertising and sponsorship campaigns that want to be associated with these great sports brands' content. We can target specific images, maybe the hacker image, which is an exclusive image that only SmartFrame photographers will capture going forward and will only be available in this format. Maybe you want to target the All Blacks images, or maybe you want to target the Blackfern images. We can target specific image sectors using the metadata. We also can give you a domain list of who's using the image and understand the web page content and the geolocation down to city and device level. And we use those reference points to inform the best campaign possible. And it's in the heart of the editorial content, the image itself. So it's an unmissable ad format with high impact and high viewability, creating great attention. So we are really raising the bar, not just for rugby, for sports content globally. This is the official photography going forward. There will still be other agencies capturing content at the event and still licensing JPEGs. But here you'll have exclusive, sometimes behind-the-scene access that you won't get anywhere else. It'll be free of charge for publishers once embedded in the SmartFrame format. And it's authenticated. So we work with Adobe on the Content Authenticity Initiative. We are a trusted source, and we prove the provenance and authenticity of images at point of capture. So we know the time, the date, the location, the photographer, and you know this is genuine, authentic content as opposed to a lot of the AI disinformation and misinformation that's being shared online currently. And so that is coming to the end of the presentation. What we're creating is an entirely new ecosystem, a more sustainable future for photography and sports brands globally. And we believe a model and a marketplace where everybody benefits. And the bigger the network grows, the more value there is for everyone that's participating. The sports brands and photographers, for the first time, have full IP ownership and protection over their assets, greater fan engagement and audience insights, and a much better revenue model from a share of advertising that's displayed on their content. Publishers remove a cost in their business. This is free to use. They're copyright compliant, so there's no need to worry about any litigation. They improve user experience and get greater content engagement and dwell times on their platform. And they also share in the advertising that's generated from those images. And the advertisers get high impact, unmissable ad formats in the heart of the editorial content with great association to amazing sporting brands such as the All Blacks, contextually targeting with high relevance to the content the ad is displayed on, creating greater engagement and return on investment for their campaigns. And probably most importantly, the end user benefits from images with high definition, a far more enjoyable content experience with all the interactive features SmartFrame offers, and ads that are actually relevant to them rather than their browsing history. I was on a plumbing site last week, and I'm looking at rugby now, and there's plumbing ads all around the web page. It's completely irrelevant, and I have no interest in that kind of content. Whereas if I'm reading about the All Blacks, I'm a great fan of the All Blacks, and then an Adidas, one of their key sponsor ad appears on that. That's an ad I want to see, an ad that I'm really going to resonate with and engage with. And that's exactly 15 minutes. Thank you for your time.